Hey, what's going on, everybody? Max here with BB, and for today's video, we are going to be doing a comprehensive Andy technical analysis video and maybe a little bit of FA. We'll see where the road takes us. Normally today, being Wednesday, we try to run an Andy Twitter space, or X space as it's now called. But I'm actually moving this afternoon. I won't have a lot of time this afternoon, so unfortunately I can't do the space, but I figured a nice way to supplement that would be to basically make a pre-recorded video and update everybody on my thoughts as to where Andy is at from it. Before we get into it, if you guys could do me a solid, please consider liking and also subscribing. That would be absolutely fantastic. We are pressing up right now against 16,000 loyal YouTube subscribers, which is incredible. So again, that's all thanks to your guys' consistent support of what we're doing here at BB. Here's the Andy chart. Okay, so I've got it on TradingView, and I'm going to add on some pre-saved drawings here. But let's talk about like what's going on here first. So you might see I've got these like green and red bubbles over the over the candles, and you're like, what are these weird bubbles? Why are some of your candles green and why are some red? So I have this awesome indicator set on here that basically helps identify when volume, either buy or sell volume, is what we would consider to be a statistical outlier. So 1 and 2 standard deviations away from our mean. Okay, so typically what you will see is like let's go over here. All right. So on this first local high right here for Andy, you can see there's some green bubbles that printed up here with, a lightly shaded green candle. That means that this green candle right here, we had +1 standard deviations of like statistical outlier by volume. Confluently, these bubbles right here are market order bubbles. So more like aggressive buying, where limit would be, a little bit more passive and maybe calm. So there was a lot of frantic buying right into this local high, which, gave people the opportunity to end up selling. These buyers got trapped and it got sent down. And on the flip side of that, we can oftentimes see statistical outlier sell volume or capitulatory forced selling into a high time frame support level. And it's really interesting to see sort of the psychology. Basically what this does is it identifies insecure money, okay, or inexperienced money, one might say, where people that get too eager and FOMO, they FOMO at the highs, they get more aggressive, and we see not only statistical outlier buy volume, very aggressively chasing price, but you also see market orders being utilized more than limit orders. Okay. And at the same time, you see price, down here, and you see, again, statistical outlier sell volume plus basically market orders into, this capitulatory low. That's also people fearfully selling at a very bad time. So it's a very useful tool, studying volume and helping to identify highs and lows. Okay, so I went on for a little bit there, but I just wanted to explain what we're seeing there. So now I'm going to put on some drawings. Let's do this first. All right, so I have this saved. I did end up tweeting this, so maybe you guys have already seen this. I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see it here. But also, you guys know that I use FIBs a lot, FIB extensions, and really interesting what we saw here from this first high. All I did here is I took a FIB extension from our high to our low, swing high to swing low, and then I put on our 1.618. Okay, and look at where the first local top was, right here, almost right at the 1.618, like perfectly. Yeah, can't say that doesn't work. These FIB extensions are a very, very useful tool. So now moving forward, in my opinion, we're in basically just this range right here. All right, and everybody's kind of panicking, and they got so used to up only, and it was so much fun, and now we're just stuck in this range. And what did we see here multiple times into this range low? We've seen statistical outlier sell volume and a very aggressive market selling into this high time frame support level. Not only twice on this deviation, and then actually just recently here on this pullback locally, right? So again, kind of showing seller exhaustion and very aggressive emotional selling, sloppy selling into high time frame support. So, assuming that the market, in general can recover from these levels and actually start to move up, which we're going to get to in a second. Um, I'm looking at Andy here and I'm saying, we've been basically ranging here for quite some time. We're at a high time frame support level. We've seen, very sloppy, aggressive panic selling into high time frame support, as shown by these volume indicators, which I use for Bitcoin and ETH and Sol and all the majors that I trade religiously on a daily basis. Again, you can see how it marks local tops and stuff too. It just it marks trading psychology is what it is. Panic buying and panic selling. And, what I would expect from here is similarly to, this 1.618, which marked our first local top. I would be looking for this next 1.618 to basically when we do start to recover, end up being our next top. And we might just pause up here and then, you could continue going. But I would expect this 1.618, which is at about 215, we'll just say 200 to 230 million market cap. Funny enough, from this first range, so again, range high to range low, our first local top was this 1.618. The 2.618, which we now know is in play because the 1.618 played from our first consolidated range, is actually right at the 1.618 for our fresh range. So lots of confluence up here, just over 200 million. We'll be keeping a very close eye on all of that. We'll throw on another set of drawings here and talk about it, and then we're going to get into some pairs. This is just another way to look at it right here. So same range, but we actually have a 3-day. We do have a 3-day demand set right here as well. So for those unfamiliar with this concept, this is basically just a 3-day order block right here. So it was the last 3-day, selling block before this, major expansion to the upside. We've now come back to it, dipped into it a few times, but very, very clean level. Price has been respecting it numerous times now. We've, arguably had a 3 drive into this 3-day demand confluent with this range. So again, looking like the floor, ultimately wants to be set in here. So feeling cautiously optimistic, based on the amount of time and seller exhaustion that we've seen into this low, barring, some sort of weird event. I think that things look pretty solid here. All right, let's keep it moving here. So now we're going to talk about pairs, right? And the idea behind these meme coin pairs are, why hold a meme coin if your meme coin is underperforming something more established, right? And what we're going to do here is, we're going to look at how Andy is performing against a lot of our constituents, right? A lot of the meme coins that, in my opinion, we should be focused on because they are more established. They've been around for longer. And again, it's very useful to look at these to gauge how are we holding up against our, not even like competition, right? Like you could view it like that, but how are we pair trading against, projects that, again, like I mentioned, are more established, maybe have, higher market caps, deeper liquidity, more holders. Like, you need to gauge, in a very unbiased, impartial way, how are we performing against other majors? Okay, so let's start with one of the smaller ones, but nonetheless a great project. It's got more price history and more holders than Andy currently. So again, let's take a look at it. Right, Andy BOBO, and BOBO is also very important to compare because there's a lot of overlap between BOBO and Pepe holders, similarly to how there's a lot of overlap between Andy and Pepe holders. BOBO has been around a little bit longer. It's got, I believe, like 15 or 16,000 holders, so slightly more than Andy. I like what they're doing. I think it's great. And again, we expect and we demand Andy to outperform BOBO because if Andy doesn't consistently, when conditions allow for it, outperform BOBO, then it would make more sense to hold BOBO, right? Similarly to if BOBO's not going to outperform Pepe, why would you hold BOBO? And if Pepe's not going to outperform Doge, then why not just hold Doge, right? Because there's inherently more risk with holding things that are younger and, smaller market cap and smaller holder base. So again, we're just viewing the data here. We're just interpreting the data, right? It's nothing, there's no personal biases or anything. It's literally just data. That's what we're here to interpret. So Andy BOBO. little refresher for those that don't know what this is here. This is Andy paired against BOBO, similarly to how people would pair, ETH against Bitcoin to gauge performance. In the simplest of terms, when this chart moves up, Andy's a better hold than BOBO. All right. When this chart moves down, BOBO's a better hold than Andy. And when I say better, I just mean like, one's moving up more against the other. Okay. So here we are looking at Andy BOBO. And, generally when I look at this, what I see is, some sort of little miniature parabola like this, we are in a very clear, kind of set of, we were forming some like lower lows, and then we broke that, started to shallow out, and we're very clearly climbing up right now. So in my opinion, this looks solid for ultimately a break to the upside of some sort. You could maybe look at this region right here as, this is clearly an order block right here. We're on the 12-hour. So 12-hour order block. Would like to see this low, respected, but ultimately I do think that this looks pretty good. And, I would expect and I would demand, because Andy's younger and of course higher risk than something that's been around for a little bit longer like BOBO, I would expect and demand that Andy do something like this, as it should, right? As it should. Okay. It's younger. It should be beta to not only BOBO, but Andy should be beta to Pepe, and Andy should be beta to, ETH. It should be beta to Doge. That's what it should be. So, anyways, here we are. I like it right now. I think it looks constructive. Again, curling up, holding lows. I think it looks good. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to look at Andy Pepe. All right. Now, Pepe is going to be the really important one, right? Because if you're not outperforming Pepe, why not just hold Pepe, right? And I can confidently say that, at this point, since, April, we are up significantly against Pepe, right? And of course, I'm a little bit skewed and hesitant to even mention that because Andy's so young, right? Like it really it went up very, very aggressively, and it should have, right? Of course it's going to. This next phase for Andy is going to be the most important, in my opinion. Like when Pepe starts moving again, what's going to happen to Andy, right? And as of right now, I'm actually very encouraged by this price action as well, right? So we put in, our initial launch here, really outperforming, looking solid. And when I look at the chart, I see this right here as previous demand. And why is this previous demand? Well, let's talk about it. Okay. So, oops. Whatever happened right here, okay, whatever happened right here led to this move to the upside. Okay. So there's a lot of buying that happened right here, and we got a crazy expansion to the upside. All right. So this is previous demand. Whatever happened here was demand. There was demand for Andy versus Pepe. We have now come back numerous times. See these lines marked right here. And we are just consistently churning and chopping and holding these lows. So right on top of previous demand. That tells me that there is smart money identifying that, hey, this is your level to accumulate Andy versus Pepe. Okay. And we could additionally kind of just draw this as like a range right here. And, things look totally fine, right? Like range low, range high. Ultimately, what I would expect to happen is, if there is maybe a deviation here, whatever, it doesn't have to move up, retest this range high. And then we would want to see, and we would demand that Andy Pepe begins to move up here. Now, something that actually I'll save this for the next part. But anyways, Andy Pepe at this point looks good, holding previous demand, holding local range low. So again, we would want to see this move up, and you could maybe draw something kind of like this, as well, whatever. But point being is when Pepe starts to move, we will demand that Andy not only follows but actually outperforms. So again, just a quick reminder: charts going down, Pepe's performing better than Andy. When it's going up, that means Andy's performing better than Pepe. All right. So let's go over to the next one now. Andy ETH, very, very important here as well. Of course, Andy, is Pepe beta, but Andy is also Ethereum beta. Okay, because it's literally on ETH, right? It's a derivative. So what we're looking for right here is for Andy to consistently hold and perform better than ETH at a minimum, right? At a minimum. So, I initially, when I look at this, I see this right here. I see this trend line holding for now. I think that this looks good. I also look at this and I say, all right, this is sort of your, just even take it from like right here, right? Like this is sort of your region to hold, in my opinion. Like this looks like a nice consolidation, range. You could even, drop it down right here potentially and just be like, yeah, this is your demand right here. Like whatever happened right in here, we shot out of it. We've now come back to retest previous demand. Andy ETH looks really good. So again, we are seeing precisely what we want to see. We are seeing precisely what we want to see right now. Like this looks great. Can maybe draw something like this, a little bullish compression. So ultimately, when ETH begins to move back up, we want to see, we'd want to see this break out, and we would demand and expect that Andy moves up aggressively against Ethereum, because if it's not going to, then why not just hold ETH, right? It's the same with any other meme coin. So, for our greater risk, we should take greater reward. But again, these charts are, in my opinion, looking very healthy and constructive right now. Very, very much so. Something we talked about in the last space was this idea that, a microcap matures and graduates from that sort of small cap, micro cap insulation that we all love and adore. When it's a baby and it's, sub 20 mil market cap, Andy can just do whatever the hell it wants to do, right? Bitcoin could go up or down or sideways or a loop-de-loop. It doesn't matter because Andy is so small. It just does whatever it wants. And the reason for that largely is that, people don't throw their whole net worth into, micro caps, or at least most people don't, and they shouldn't. So, they take a little bit of money, it's play money, and they buy microcap, right? So if there starts to, be major turmoil for Bitcoin and ETH and, Solana, people typically don't run to their four fund bags that are a very small portion of their liquidity and, go, oh, this is how I'm going to insulate myself, is by selling, this tiny little percentage of my portfolio that's for fun. And because of that mindset, we see microcaps sometimes just ignore what majors are doing and go crazy, right? Even when there's turmoil, in broader markets. I said this in our last space. I said, here's the good news, guys. I said the good news is that Andy has graduated. It hit 150 million market cap. It's got, well over 10,000 holders now. We're going to get into the on-chain data in a second. But the bad news is that it's now sort of beholden to Ethereum and Bitcoin. Okay. But that's a good thing, right? That's part of the growing pains. Like if ETH doesn't perform well, Andy's not going to perform well. Right? Like that's just how it goes. And that's a good thing. You ultimately want your meme coin, you want your beta play to sync up with majors because it becomes more predictable and less random. All right. So let's go back here and let's take a look at things. All right. So here's Andy. We'll just take the drawings off. What we're going to do is we're going to put ETH down here, and we'll make the ETH candles, we'll make them blue, and we'll actually move ETH up here. All right. So again, we have Andy. Oops, I think I just accidentally moved it back down. All right, let's try that one more time. All righty. So we have Andy up top and we have ETH down below. All right, we're going to look at the more recent price action. We'll go to the lower time frames. All right, I want to identify very clearly here for everybody what I'm talking about, where Andy is beholden to Ethereum. It is now begin to sort of sync up with ETH, right? Let's take a look at this most recent set of price action, all right? Let's identify some highs, all right? And lows, right? ETH sets a low here on the 27th. Andy sets a low here, same time. Andy sets a high. ETH sets a high. Andy sets a low. ETH sets a low. Andy, oh look, ETH pumped. Look at this. Highs are set. Highs are set. ETH just set a local low. Oh look, Andy appears to have just set a local low. So this is what I'm talking about, where you need to understand what you're trading. You're not just trading some microcap anymore that, a couple guys can tweet about and move the price. What you're trading is, a 10 times leveraged or more Ethereum. And I'll remove all of this now, and I'm actually going to move ETH back down. Okay. And we're going to take some measured moves because I want to show you, the volatility attached to this thing, So let's take a little move here. All right. So from this low that ETH set, ETH moved up 14%. All right. You can see that from this local low set on May 1st, ETH moved up 14%. Now we're going to take a move to the high here for Andy. All right. So Andy from this local low to the high moved up 133%. Okay. So they bottomed on the same day and they topped on the same day. It's not random. So Andy has 10 times, roughly 10 times what you are trading in its simplest form is a 10 times leveraged ETH pair. So if ETH goes up 5x from here, what's 5 times 10? You know, that's more or less what you should expect with Andy. Okay. It's a 50x, right? So if ETH goes up 5x, Andy's going to go up 50x. All right. That's how this pair works. It's never going to be perfect, right? And by the way, that volatility works both ways. Let's take a move on ETH here. More recently, ETH just pulled back 7.5%. All right. From again, this high to the most recent low. Now let's see what Andy did. Again, they topped and they bottomed on the exact same day. When ETH pulled back 8%, Andy pulled back 42%. Okay. So, people are asking me, they're like, oh, I'm worried about Andy. Like it just pulled back 40%. And I'm like, this is expected, Look at the chart. What you are trading is 10 times leveraged ETH, you know. Similarly, you're trading, 5 times leveraged Pepe. If you throw Pepe up here, you'll see that tops and bottoms are, formed more or less on the same day. And, Pepe is again leveraged Ethereum. Pepe is 3 or 4 or 5 times leveraged ETH, right? So if ETH goes up 1%, Pepe should go up 3 to 5%, and Andy should go up, 10 to 15%. What you are trading here is not some micro cap that can do whatever it wants. It's now graduated and is highly connected and intertwined in the larger crypto ecosystem. So again, I hope that this example, sheds some light on that. Because it's very clear to me now. And by the way, this is a great thing. I know everyone's like, oh, I don't want to be paired to ETH. We can do whatever we want. No, like we want to be bullish ETH. We want ETH to go to 15,000, and we want Pepe and Andy and this whole ecosystem, this web of interconnectivity to go crazy because of it, right? It's all tied to ETH. And then ETH is, of course, tied to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's tied to 1,000 different things. But anyways, that's a little crash course on what we're actually trading here. So let's pull up something new here. We looked at this last time we made a video. Right here, we are looking at the on-chain holder count and price. So the green line is the amount of holders, and the gray line in the background is the price. So what you can see here is, even going back, price kind of oscillates, like it dips below, this holder count on this axis, and then it moves up and kind of bubbles, and then it corrects. But what's really encouraging is that even throughout all of this, all this local volatility that we've seen right here, I mean, ultimately, what we're seeing is holder count is continuing to climb day after day, regardless of what price is doing. And something that I said in my last video is price is temporary. Holder count consistently rising is the most important metric. So, going back and referencing not only the technical analysis that I just did, showing, what's actually driving price here, which is just Ethereum and Bitcoin chop solidation and local volatility, but holders, people actually, acquiring and holding more Andy is super, super bullish, and this price is temporary, right? It's very, very much so temporary. So what we're seeing is totally, totally healthy, like just a consistent climb, regardless of what price is doing, people buying and holding and accumulating Andy. So again, price is temporary, but holder count is the most important metric. And when ETH starts to move, you're undoubtedly going to see Andy aggressively rip. Similarly to when ETH rips, you're going to see Pepe rip, and there can be little pockets of outperformance and I would say decoupling, quote unquote, where one day ETH could be flat and Pepe could move, or one day ETH could be flat and Andy can move, things like that. But for the most part, like on a higher time frame, multiple hour settings, they sync up. They sync up, and we want that to happen. One more thing, I think would be good to discuss here is my general bias for, um, for altcoins here. And people always ask me, they're like, Max, are you gonna sell your altcoins? Including Andy. You're probably up so much. Like, are you gonna sell your altcoins? And I always tell them the same thing, and I'll put it here again just as a reminder. The answer is no, and I will happily explain why. Let me just adjust these time frames. It's a lot to fit on here. Okay, and then I'll put this on 2 week as well. So what we're looking at right here is others, okay, which is basically your altcoin index. It's all of crypto minus the top 10 names by market cap. So minus Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, BNB, and even Tether. Um, and then up top here we have Bitcoin. Okay, so let me just label this so we don't forget. And the reason I'm showing you guys this is because you want an answer to the question: is Max going to be selling his altcoins? And I have to answer it this way because this is when I'm going to sell my altcoins. So don't be surprised later, months and months and months from now, when I come on here and I'm like, yeah, guys, I'm selling my altcoins. This is going to be exactly why. So let me show you. So let me mark this up real quick. Actually, let me explain this first. So this is Bitcoin dominance. This is Bitcoin represented as a percentage of the total crypto asset class. So right now it's at 54, 55%. That means that, picture like a pie chart. Bitcoin makes up, 55% of all of crypto. All right. And typically what we see here is, when Bitcoin dominance starts to capitulate, what that means is that, we get alt season and alts begin to really outperform Bitcoin. So let's mark this up. When Bitcoin dominance begins to capitulate, let's mark these out. I already did it on others, but let's mark it out here on Bitcoin. So again, you can see the crosshairs to the left they sync up on all the charts. Bitcoin dominance basically started to capitulate right here. I'll put this in blue, and this was March 2017. All right, the next one was right here. So December, January 2020 through 2021. And then, right here, I am of the belief that we've put in our top or damn near. Um, and then let's also mark out, our global tops for Bitcoin USD, global tops for others, and global bottom for Bitcoin dominance. We'll mark that with red dots. The Bitcoin dominance puts in a bottom there, and then I'm expecting something like this. Okay, so my trigger to sell my altcoins is when we've seen Bitcoin dominance put in a multi-month capitulation. And why these percentages are drawn over here is, Bitcoin in 2017 went up 1,828% when Bitcoin dominance began to capitulate, and others went up 24,000%. So again, Bitcoin USD up, others up more. Bitcoin dominance, of course, loses its piece of the pie. It loses its market share. Okay. Now let's keep going. What about last cycle? And I'm kind of estimating, right? It's not super precise, but it's very close. When Bitcoin dominance right over here began to capitulate last cycle, Bitcoin USD went up 270% and others went up almost 1,000%. So again, Bitcoin loses market share. Bitcoin USD goes up. Others, being altcoins, goes up way more. And again, that's basically like your global top. Okay. So what am I looking for right now? I'm looking for Bitcoin USD to go up, however much. Maybe it's 100%, maybe it's, 300%. I have no idea, right? Like, we'll see where it goes. We'll be watching closely. Let's just say it goes up here, 150%. I would be expecting others to go up, 500, 600%. And I would expect, in similar fashion, Bitcoin dominance to basically capitulate, right? I would expect it to crash just like it has the previous two cycles and put in some sort of global bottom. That would put in, a cycle top for Bitcoin and for altcoins, and then that's when I look to sell my altcoin, right? So is Max going to sell his altcoins? No. We've never, up until this point, we've never put in a cycle top for Bitcoin or altcoins while Bitcoin dominance has been trending up aggressively for 18 months. So unless this time is different, why would I sell any of my altcoins? Just because there's local volatility? No, thank you. I can diamond hand this stuff and hold through local volatility. I'm waiting for a very complex, high time frame trigger to go risk off on Bitcoin and altcoins, and it's going to require multiple months of Bitcoin dominance, basically nuking. And we haven't even started a downtrend yet. Thanks so much for tuning in. Wanted to just cover all that stuff. Again, please consider liking and subscribing if you are new here. But yeah, apologies, I can't do a space today. I am moving, but hopefully this video suffices. I think we covered a lot of really good information. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for being here. If you want a more in-depth view, if you want to see behind the curtain on everything that I'm doing, if you want to see all my active positions, the rest of the Because Bitcoin analysts, all of their active positions, private premium TA that we don't talk about here on YouTube or on X, consider checking out the first link in the description below. We do over 2.5 hours per day of private live voice calls with the entire team, myself included, where we do Q&A and we talk about everything that's going on in the markets. Additionally, within the next 30 days, you are going to get free access to our new flagship product called the BB Terminal. It basically has everything you need to succeed in these markets: portfolio tracking, derivatives data, heat maps, order flow, literally everything you could need, all bundled into one super website. So again, that will be included in your existing Discord membership, which I just mentioned. Last but not least, check out the second link in the description below, guys. If you want to learn how I do TA, how the rest of the Because Bitcoin team does TA and FA, we have basically spent 6 months building out a masterclass for you guys. All right, it's very fairly packaged. Again, a lot of this information is out there, but there's a ton of people teaching the wrong stuff. And if you want to save yourself a lot of time and headaches learning the wrong stuff, we can teach you the right stuff. Okay. We spent 6 months building out this masterclass. It's called BB Academy. Again, second link in the description below. We can save you weeks, quarters, years, decades, forming bad habits, learning the wrong stuff. We share everything, how we do TA, how we do FA, how we approach markets as a team, and, how, again, we've all become consistently profitable traders over many, many years as a collective. And we share everything in this, very fairly priced masterclass, if I don't say so myself. So again, it's really tremendous value. Highly encourage you to check it out. Prices are going up very soon. If you click on the link, you'll see what the price is going to go to in the not too distant future. So check out the BB Academy sooner rather than later. We're very proud of how it turned out. But again, guys, thanks so much for being here. Please consider liking and subscribing, and we will see you next time. Take care.